If you've ever watched a future NBA player in high school, it is clear that they are hooping on another level. Cause once you watch someone score close to 100 points in a game, or make 10 threes in the first half, that is when the opponents start asking for autographs. And high school basketball scouts do the best that they can to predict which basketball players will make it in the league. But after years of scouting players who don't even have a high school diploma yet, I wanted to know, do the scouts actually get it right of which players will hear their names called on draft day? To answer this question, I looked at every single player listed on NBADraft.net and projected in the first and second round of the draft, and compared it with what their ESPN basketball recruitment ranking was when they came out of high school. The ones that they got right, the ones that they got wrong, and then there are the flukes, the players who they never saw coming, even if you gave them binoculars. In a typical recruitment year, the players who are ranked in the top 5 of the nation on ESPN are normally going to become lottery picks in the draft. Players like Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett are proof of this. But the list of names who fit that criteria is incredibly long, because players like Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving were always supposed to be this good when they got to the league. But in 2023, not one player who was ranked in the top 5 of their recruitment class is now projected even in the top 10 of the draft. Derek Lively is perhaps the only exception to this, and he didn't even play well in his 1 year at Duke, but he was the #1 recruit in 2022. So NBA scouts aren't ready to give up on him yet, and that is the only logical reason why he's projected even close to the lottery. And even if he does sneak into the lottery, he's already missed out, because if he had held on to his spot as the #1 player, he would be in line to make $9 million as a rookie. And when you get down to the 10th pick, you're already down to $4 million. Some of those top 5 players are now projected in the second round, like Amari Bailey, Dariq Whitehead, and of course, Imani Bates. But Javion Gortman has fallen down the list the most, because he was the 5th ranked recruit in his recruitment class and chose to play for Overtime Elite. And now, he is barely holding on to a projection at the back of the second round. The only reason that makes sense why he might get picked at all is because he was a top recruit when he was coming out of high school. But normally, if the scouts bailed on you that hard, like they did with Isaiah Briscoe years ago, you're probably not going to have a long career in the league. But what do I know? I'm just a guy with access to Google. But amongst the 2023 draft class are 15 players who, when they were high school recruits, weren't even ranked inside the top 100. Granted, some of them barely missed out, because 7 of them were 4-star recruits on ESPN Recruiting, but just didn't crack the top 100. Of all those guys, Maxwell Lewis from Pepperdine University is projected the highest as a late first-round draft pick. Of course, a lot of players are underrated, and most of those guys are projected as second-rounders. 3 players were ranked worse than number 300, but by staying in college for a few years, they were able to play their way onto the draft board. Chris Murray, Marcus Sasser, and Ricky Council all share the same story. Yet there are still 5 players who are expected to be drafted who weren't even ranked when they came out of high school. Basically, we just gotta call them 1-star recruits. They all grinded their way to second-round consideration, with Ben Shepherd of Belmont University potentially sneaking into the first round. What this means is that the other 2/3 of the draft are the players who the scouts always thought were gonna be selected anyway. They were ranked inside the top 100, and found a pathway to the draft. The issue is that high school scouts really had no idea which ones of these players were going to be drafted where. Some of them were top 15 in their recruiting class, like Jordan Walsh out of Arkansas, and now he's projected in the second round. He went one and done at Arkansas, but will probably spend most of his season in the G League, hopefully on a two-way contract. But other players like Jordan Hawkins played their way into consideration for the lottery, and he was only the 59th ranked recruit when he came out of high school. In his case, he won a national championship while he was at UConn, so it's safe to say that he has already proved a lot of the doubters wrong. All that being said, the scouts figured out quite a bit, because they predicted that Brandon Miller, Grady Dick, Scoot Henderson, Anthony Black, Jarvis Walker, and the Thompson twins would be drafted in the first round while they were still in high school. And yeah, it's looking like it's about to go down. The order doesn't really matter, because none of them were top 5 in their class. And once you leave the top 5, you're basically rolling dice anyway. We'll find out in the NBA who is really legit or not. But as far as the draft is concerned, these players are who we thought they were. Victor Wembanyama is the consensus #1 pick, and he didn't go to high school in America. He's a once-in-a-generation talent, and the NBA went halfway around the world to find him. But most of the players who get drafted are homegrown players, and we got to watch them grow up right before our eyes. When the draft is over, we'll finally get to find out if the high school scouts got it right or the NBA scouts figured it out. Cause with so many top recruits who fell all the way down the draft board, I am sure that every single one of them wants to prove ESPN recruiting to be right. And that is no matter which team calls their name or whatever round they get picked in.